Silly movie synopsises. Hi, how are you? So there's more than one way to watch a movie. You could watch a movie from the lead character's points of view, like normal, or you could pretend to watch the movie from a secondary character's point of view, for fun. Let's do that. Here are 3 silly movie synopsises. The first one is Titanic. The movie Titanic is about a car. It is a 1912 Renault Coupe de Ville, and its story starts out at the manufacturing plant in France, and it gets put on a truck, and then it gets taken to the shipyards. And at the beginning of Titanic, you see the Coupe de Ville up on this crane, and it's being lowered onto the ship, and then somehow, I've thought about this, I'm not sure, somehow the car gets rolled into the cargo, although I don't know how. Anyway, the car gets rolled into a cargo hold G, and where it stays for the majority of the movie. And it hangs out there, just talking with the other items in the cargo. And he's talking with the wine, and the golf clubs, and the books, and the works of art, and the food, and the clothes, and 2 grandfather clocks. And the car realizes it's the only car in the cargo hold, so it feels very special. And it's just hanging out there for the movie of Titanic, just hanging out, talking in the cargo hold. And then all of a sudden, this couple shows up and gets in the car. And then they start getting romantic. And then the car feels really special. And then the couple starts really getting romantic. And then the couple really gets romantic in the back of the car, steaming up the car. And the car's like, yeah, I am a special car. And then they finish, and then they get out of the car and they leave. And then a few minutes later, these security guys come in and they open up the door and they shine a flashlight in the car, and then they leave. And then a few minutes later, out of nowhere, water starts flooding in the cargo. And then it starts filling up, and soon the whole cargo bay is filled with water. And then it feels like the cargo hold is tipping. And then it feels like the whole ship is falling and falling and falling, and suddenly there's a big crash. And so the car's just sitting in the water after the big crash with all the other works of art and items. And it's just hanging out there at the bottom of the water. And it's thinking, man, I don't know what's going on, but this doesn't look good. And then soon the car loses all hope and thinks it's going to be underwater forever. But then, eventually, years later, suddenly there's light, and the water all drains away, and the room fills up bright again, and all the items, including the car, are restored back to their natural beauty again, and everything is fine forever. And that is the movie Titanic from the car's point of view. Movie silly synopsis for The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is about 3 farmhands living in a monochrome black and white existence in Kansas. And the 3 farmhands live on Mr. and Mrs. Gale's farm. And they feed the animals, and they tend to the crops, and they repair fences, and do farm kind of stuff. And they hang out there, and they really get along with each other, and they make jokes and play checkers, and they share the whiskey bottle. And there's also a dog on the farm named Toto. And also on the farm is Mr. and Mrs. Gale's niece named Dorothy, and she's pretty cool, but she's constantly getting into trouble, walking on the fence and falling on the pig pen, falling in the pig pen, and they have to constantly rescue her. And she's always getting into trouble, and she never seems to truly appreciate how great this farm is. And then one day, a tornado comes by, and it's making all the wind, and the horses are running around, and they have to get the animals in the barn for safety. And then they all get NEM and Uncle, what's his name? Go to the storm cellar, and they're looking around for Dorothy, but they can't find Dorothy, and they don't know where Dorothy is. And so they get in the storm cellar, because the heck with Dorothy, the tornado's coming. And so they get in the storm cellar, and their tornado passes, and they get out of the storm cellar, and everything seems to be pretty intact. So it wasn't really that bad. And then they walk in the house, and there's Annie M, finding Dorothy in the bed and putting a wet cloth on her forehead. And Dorothy says, I had this really wild dream, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there. And for some reason, Dorothy seems to now appreciate how great this farm is. And she says, there's no place like this farm. And that is the silly synopsis for The Wizard of Oz from the farmhand's point of view. Silly movie synopsis for Star Wars. Star Wars is a really long saga about a blue lightsaber. Now, this blue lightsaber was first manufactured in the Jedi Knight lightsaber manufacturing factory on Coruscant. And the blue lightsaber was given to this new Jedi kid named Anakin. And, you know, Anakin used it for a while for a lot of good stuff. And then Anakin used the blue lightsaber for a lot of bad stuff. And then Anakin was in a sword fight using the blue lightsaber, and he accidentally dropped it on land next to a lava river. But luckily, his friend picked up the lightsaber and took it to a desert planet and put it in a trunk where it stayed for many, many years. And then one day, the lightsaber was taken out of the trunk and given to a new dude. And that dude practiced with the lightsaber a lot and learned to use it. And then the lightsaber was used by the new dude in a dual sword fight with Anakin. But this time, Anakin was a much different person. And Anakin must not have liked the new dude using his lightsaber, because then he cut off the dude's hand and the lightsaber fell down this long tunnel and then fell into another tunnel and slid into a laundry facility on a cloud city. And then the lightsaber accidentally got folded up into some clothes and put in a box and put on a cargo ship that went to a planet called Takodana. And on Takodana, they unpacked the laundry boxes, and a character named Maz found the lightsaber mixed in with the clothes. And so Maz put the blue lightsaber in a trunk, and that trunk held the lightsaber for a long time. And then this new lady came, and she pulled the lightsaber out of the trunk, and she kept it for a while and used it on many adventures with the lightsaber doing sword fights and all kinds of stuff. And then eventually that lady buried the lightsaber in the sand back on that desert planet. So the lightsaber is getting around a lot. But that's not where it stayed. See, there were further adventures where the lightsaber was unburied, and then it was taken on more adventures by a galaxy-traveling time traveler. And that time traveler took that lightsaber on many adventures around the galaxy and ended up in a place called Kansas, where it was owned by a fortune teller for a while. And then somehow that blue lightsaber ended up on a cargo ship called the Titanic. And then somehow it also ended up in a museum, where it still is somewhere. And that is the story of Star Wars from the blue lightsaber's point of view. I hope you've enjoyed these silly movie synopsises, and I would love to know your thoughts about them. And if you have any, silly movie synopsises yourself, I would love to hear them. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week for another fun video. What do you think of silly movie synopsises? You could see movies from a whole different point of view. What do you think? Have a great week.